Welcome to Fan Fave with Katrina. Fan Fave with Katrina. It's time to talk pop culture.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Katrina, and this is Fan Fave, the ultimate pop culture podcast for fans of all forms of entertainment. If you love music, television, film, theater, or anything in between, you're in the right place. Welcome back, you guys. As the mashup in the title might imply, we are talking about two fun things today that I did recently. I actually spent Memorial Day weekend up in New York with my family, and I finally got the chance to see Merrily We Roll Along on Broadway, which those of you who have been listening to me for a while know how long I've been waiting to see this show. So I'm going to be sharing all of my thoughts about my experience seeing that today. But then the second half of this episode is another thing that I did while in New York, or actually New Jersey, I should say. I saw the legendary, so iconic Rolling Stones in concert at MetLife Stadium, and I had the time of my life. So I can't wait to talk about all of that too. Before we get into that, I just want to address some new changes to the podcast. I'm still experimenting with some things, so this may not be permanent. Well, the first part actually is. I'll start with an announcement first. Those who follow me on social media already heard about this, but I launched a newsletter for the podcast. I really feel like I always have so much to talk about in terms of pop culture news on this podcast, so I thought it would just be fun and a lot more organized, really, and even more accessible for you all to just have like this weekly roundup of all the latest in pop culture headed straight to your inbox. So the newsletter is called Pop Recap, just like our weekly Pop Recap segment that we do on the podcast. Entertainment news breakdowns, and it releases every single Sunday. The very first edition of Pop Recap actually released on this past Sunday. I feel like there was so much that happened last week, and it's just so exciting to be able to launch something new alongside the pod. With that being said, I do think I am going to largely shrink down the Pop Recap section of the podcast. I love talking about the trending topics, but it is kind of feeling almost like I'm doing two podcasts at once, where I talk about a whole lot of news and then share a whole lot of thoughts and then go into a topic of the day. So my weekly news dump will now be coming to you all in a newsletter, with the Pop Recaps in the podcast being a lot shorter. I may talk about one or two major things that are on my mind, like if there's an award show or like somebody released a new album, but I won't be doing like the full rundown thing for the time being, or like it might even just be like more of a personal update thing, like the what I've been up to, like if I went to a Broadway show or a concert and it's not going to be the focus of the episode, then I'll talk about that during the Pop Recap as well. But nothing is set in stone with that. I'm just going to try this new format out, and you can let me know what you think. But also exciting news with the newsletter. I had so much fun putting together and just curating it, so I hope it can become a fun new property of the Fan Fave universe. So yeah, let me know what you think of the newsletter or the new podcast format going forward. You can subscribe to the newsletter at poprecap.beehive. That's B-E-E like a bumblebee, and then hive is spelled H-I-I-V, so kind of different. B-E-E-H-I-I-V, poprecap.beehive.com. It's also linked in all of my social media pages, so go subscribe right now. Newsletters are so fun, like it's the thing now. Today I do have one thing to talk about really quickly, actually two things, in this new Pop Recap, and then we are going to just jump right in, since this episode is kind of what I've been up to in terms of my media consumption, and also since I just put the newsletter out. But the thing I want to talk about, it's actually something that I did recently just mention in the newsletter. We got our first full ride POV of Tiana's Bayou adventure at Walt Disney World. This is a retheme of Splash Mountain, a ride that I've never been on, I'll admit, but I have seen plenty of videos of. So really quickly, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this new retheming of the Splash Mountain ride at Walt Disney World, because I am a Disney adult and I love talking about Walt Disney World. I didn't know what to expect with this ride, really. I mean, I love Tiana, I love Princess and the Frog, but I was unsure from like the very beginning if a log flume type of ride fit her story, and I just had some reservations about how it was going to be, if I'm being honest. And like I have to emphasize, I'm not one of those like Splash Mountain obsessed weirdos and people going like so hard for the ride and just being ridiculous about it being rethemed. Like I don't really care that much. I don't mind that it's being rethemed. I know it's like a classic ride, but like I'm not like criticizing it just because I'm like hashtag save Splash Mountain. Like I'm not one of those people, but I was a little bit like unsure about how it was going to be, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know how excited I am about this. But truthfully, after watching the ride POV, I have to say that I do love it, and I kind of hate that I ever really doubted it because I think it looks way better than Splash Mountain. Like the lighting, the ambiance, it's so pretty, and the animatronics look so good. People are complaining a lot about the screen usage in this ride I saw, and I feel like I only counted like 2 instances where they're using screens, but overall it just looks like really good, and the soundtrack for the ride has some new songs, but also some familiar ones, which I was not expecting, because for those that don't know, this ride is not like some rides where they're taken from a Disney movie and then they just follow the scenes of the movie. This Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it actually takes place kind of like in the universe, but after the events of the movie. So, there's no like Dr. Fassler in there. Like it's completely different. They're not taking anything from the movie. It takes place after the events of the movie. But yeah, honestly, I've never been on Splash Mountain before because I'm scared, but after watching this video, I'm probably going to force myself onto it when I go back to the parks in October. Like, I have to because it's so cute. I will say with how well Tiana fits into this type of ride, I really don't know what the plot or story is supposed to be after watching the ride video. Like at the end, I get that there's a party of some sort. Maybe I need to see like another POV or something to make it clearer, but it just didn't feel like there was really a story to the ride. Not that it even really matters though, because I didn't even know the plot when it was Splash Mountain. It was like, what, that rabbit? And like, I don't know what it was. I know like the ending was a lot spookier than it is now, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I didn't really know the plot when I was watching Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I know that it's supposed to be like it's like a salt cave or something. Like they're mining for stuff, I think for the restaurant or something. I'm not really sure what that part is. I just guess when it comes to like IP rides, you kind of start to expect a story, right? And I still don't know how I feel about them using IP for this ride with The Princess and the Frog, but it not being the story we know, like they've done with pretty much every other princess ride in the park. Like The Little Mermaid is like straight up just the plot of the movie retold in a ride, and it's nice to see them do something creative outside of that. But I don't know, I wouldn't have minded if it was just like following the story that we know already. It's not necessarily a bad thing though. It reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean actually, where it's just vibes, good immersion, a big drop, and vibes. Because I don't know what type of plot is in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride either. Like I've never seen the movies, so maybe that's my problem, but the ride came first, and to me it's just like different rooms with pirates, and you're just watching and enjoying like the scenery and the smells and getting splashed by water. So same with this Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Like I don't know what the plot is, it's just vibes. I think there's a part where you get shrunk down to the size of a frog, and it looks so tight in there, low-key. Like if you watch that part, it's kind of like, whoa, it kind of looks real. And that's one of the rooms where they do use a screen, I noticed. But the new drop also, for what the laughing place was in Splash Mountain, that also looks pretty cool with the lights and stuff. It just looks like really fun. And then the big drop at the end, I think that's a massive change just in tone in general, because obviously like everything technically is the same with this ride. They didn't change the tracks. They didn't change the drops. Like mechanic wise, everything is the same with the ride. But now with Tiana's Bayou Adventure, the big drop just appears more pleasant. And I think it's because of Mama Odie. They have like an animatronic with her there, and she's like sending you off to a party, and there's a lot of greenery, kind of like florals. And it's a happy occasion to be plummeted 50 feet, And that wasn't the case with Splash Mountain. It was like Splash Mountain before the drop, it was giving very much like something bad is about to happen to you. Like you should be worried, you should be scared. And this one is like, get ready, it's time to go and get ready for your party. And so it's like a completely different vibe. And I think that has to help, right? With like the fear of climbing up that lift tower. It's like, okay, well, we're just going to go down for the party now, It's not like thorns and stuff at the bottom of the drop. But, another thing that I want to say is the ending scene. It features this new song called Special Spice, and it looks so good. Like, the ending scene is so pretty, and it's like a big party. All of the fancy animatronics, the ones that we were seeing in some of those early previews with the ride. And I don't even remember an ending scene and Splash Mountain when I was comparing them, but I also didn't really regularly watch Splash Mountain POV videos past the drop, because when I was watching a video of Splash Mountain, it was just to see how steep the drops were to determine if I would get on it, and the answer was always no. But now Tiana's Bayou Adventure is looking like a 100% yes for me. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about in the pop recap, and as I'm talking, I'm just like thinking this should be like a thing where I just like shout out the new thing in pop culture, whether it's like a movie or a show or like a new song or music artist that I'm getting into, like just shout them out as like my pick of the week. So if I were to start doing that for this week, I have to say that my pick of the week, I'm going to put it in the music category, and it's this group called The Last Dinner Party. It's a group of like British girls, and they kind of have like a rock indie sound, and I just discovered them. I don't know. Oh, my friend told me about them because they're going to Lollapalooza, the music festival in Chicago, and she's trying to like go to their after party thingy. And so I was like, wait a second, because this is silly on my part, but like there's like multiple, I was going to say groups, but they're actually not groups. There's these different groups, or artists, I should say, that's the word, artists that sound like they're groups, and they all have like names that are similar. For some reason, The Last Dinner Party got grouped into that for me because I saw people talking about them when they played Coachella earlier this year, but like my brain would not clock the difference between, okay, The Last Dinner Party, The Japanese House, and Japanese Breakfast. I don't know how The Last Dinner Party got like mixed up in there with the Japanese, I think because of the breakfast and then dinner, but like for months those were the same people to me. But apparently The Last Dinner Party is the only one that's a group. I haven't gotten into the other two of those artists, but I did listen to The Last Dinner Party because my friend told me to, and I really like them. They're really good, you know, and they're like brand new. I think they just started like last year, or like just got signed last year, and their new album just came out. Like, they haven't even really toured the US or done anything yet, really. They're like fresh to the scene right now. But they have a song called Nothing Matters. I think that's probably their most popular right now. And it's really good. That one is good. And then really the whole album is good. But yeah, I've been listening to Nothing Matters on repeat. And then there's another one that's called Caesar on a TV Screen. And I just love, like, if you listen to it, go watch like the music videos because their aesthetic is just so cool. Like, they put like work into their music videos. It's like a whole movie. That one is actually kind of like themed to be like a play that you're watching, but still, like, it's cinema when you're watching their stuff. They have like a whole aesthetic with them. It's really cool to look at. So go check them out. That's my like pick of the week for music that I'm getting into right now. Okay, now let's hop into our main focus with today's episode. I want to start by talking about my experience seeing Merrily We Roll Along on Broadway. As I said, I waited a long time to see this show. I mean, it's been around. I remember when it was at the New York Theater Workshop and I tried to see it, and like tickets were like $300. It was like something like absolutely crazy. And then like last year I tried to see it. I had tickets for my birthday to go, but then my plans ended up changing because I got like invited to a wedding. I might have told this story, but yeah, I ended up in like Atlanta and Florida and had to sell my tickets. But now, basically to start my weekend, the whole weekend and Memorial Day weekend, I'm going to like probably tell this story more in depth because it really started with the second half of this episode with the Rolling Stones. But my aunt, she came into town and we went up to New York and we all just kind of hung out in the city and we wanted to see a Broadway show. And so Merrily We Roll Along was the show that I chose to take my aunt to see. And it stars Jonathan Groff, Lindsay Mendez, and Daniel Radcliffe. For those that don't know, it's about three best friends, but it tells this story in reverse of what happened to their friendship, because when the story starts, they aren't really in the best place. They're in terrible places. They basically hate each other when the show starts, and then you start to unravel back over the course of like 20 years to see what happened. That's the show. I left the theater after seeing Merrily We Roll Along feeling like that was absolutely fantastic, feeling like it was probably one of the best shows that I've ever seen on Broadway. And yes, I say that about most shows that I see, but I mean it with this show. But I also left kind of understanding why this show was a flop when it first came out. And I should back up what I'm saying with that. For those that don't know, Merrily We Roll Along is currently a revival production on Broadway. It initially premiered on Broadway, the musical version at least, back in 1981. It is a Stephen Sondheim show, but it completely flopped painfully. In fact, it closed after just 16 performances and 44 previews and just had largely negative reviews. So what happened to get it from there to here where it's now successful? I mean, a lot of different productions happened in between where they brought it back and made several changes, but that production of Merrily We Roll Along that failed back in 1981, it's very different from the productions that we have seen since then, and the production that is currently running on Broadway, which many people refer to as the must-see show on Broadway right now. The original show actually had a much younger cast as the three leads, making it a lot more difficult for the audience to really follow them when they were supposed to be in their 40s. I guess they just didn't think it was like super believable. And then the cast also didn't have any costumes. They just wore t-shirts with names on them, and just like many scenes were different. Like I think the way that the show started and ended was different. I think it had to do with like a graduation scene, like completely different. A fourth reason why the show didn't do as well, and why I say that I left the theater kind of understanding why it was a flop initially, is that aspect of reverse storytelling, because it doesn't work with everyone. And that's a big thing that I want to focus on with this show, because personally, I think that element of the show is a good thing and a bad thing for it. It definitely was confusing to watch completely blind, because the story just puts you right into the lives of these characters and you immediately have a million questions. I mean, it starts so dramatically and you have no clue like really what's going on. And with a show like this, you just have to be patient. Like some questions are just not going to be answered until halfway through Act 2, and you just got to be cool with that. So I think that could feel like a negative for this show, because my brain was constantly trying to jump ahead and I was feeling like maybe I missed something because I didn't know where people came from or what they did. But it was just that their part of the story hadn't unraveled yet. So in that way, it can kind of be hard to follow. And I felt like it wasn't like a big deal. Like I understood everything for the most part, and I definitely did by like Act 2. So there was a different kind of payoff there, because I felt like I had gotten a better picture of who these people were compared to how things started. And I just want to interject about like why I think this production specifically is so successful, despite kind of being held back in the sense of that kind of format, because a lot of people don't like that reverse storytelling format. I think it also has to do with the talent on the stage and how well they're able to portray the changes that these characters go through, and to portray it in a way that is very entertaining and very believable. But kind of like despite that kind of negative aspect of the reverse storytelling, I just think there's something special and unique about the way that Merrily We Roll Along is formatted. And it's formatted in a way that is not like any show that I have seen on Broadway before. I mean, Sondheim shows can be non-traditional. When you think of shows like Company, which also is not a very linear show, this entire story being told in reverse order, it's just different, you know? It starts in 1976 with this big party revolving around Jonathan Groff's character, Frank, who is celebrating a new movie premiere. But then everything kind of falls apart at this party. You have Mary Flynn. She's one of the three friends and is played by Lindsay Mendez, who pretty much has a breakdown over, well, everything. You will learn why as the show goes on. And then Frank has a huge argument with his wife, who attacks his co-star because he cheated on her with that co-star. So yeah, basically in this very dramatic opening number, we see Frank, the main character, lose his last longtime friend and his wife, and potentially his new girl too, because I forget what she did. She his wife threw something in her eyes, and I don't know if it blinded her or what it was, but we don't know. She just ran off screaming, and she was like, now she won't have a career and you won't have her, or something like that. It was crazy. So he loses everything essentially, and he's just left kind of alone and depressed. And all he is left with is his art and his money. And I think it's really interesting to see as we go back through the previous 20 years during the show, how big of a theme there is of this super talented artist who becomes focused more on being commercial than doing what he loves. And his relationships essentially suffer because of that and because of who he becomes by doing that. Because then you have the third friend, Charlie, played by Daniel Radcliffe, who was also his writing partner, and they worked together until Frank started basically leaving Charlie hanging for financial opportunities, like making movies that pretty much they joke about throughout the whole show. They're terrible movies that are just like cash grabs. And Charlie was essentially just frustrated with how Frank valued doing these types of projects that were based less on their quality and just more on their potential to be commercially successful. And Charlie in general, he just felt like Frank didn't give him the time of day after a while. So you see why they aren't friends anymore pretty early on in the show, while Mary hangs around a lot longer. And I think that's because she was holding on to hope that things would change, and also because she had a crush on Frank for like the whole show. So yeah, there was a lot going on with these three. And I mean, like I said, it just slowly unravels. And I just think that's very interesting to watch and just see all your questions get answered, because you're like, what's going on here? Like, why is she mad? Why is he mad? It's very entertaining. Also, there's a lot of cheating, like cheating in relationships that were born out of cheating, just cheaters cheating on cheaters. It's just so interesting to see everything unravel. But because it's in reverse, you're also seeing them, Frank especially, go from hopelessness to hopefulness. And there's something about watching that. It's like with life, you can have your dreams, but you can never imagine how things will actually end up. And you certainly aren't thinking that things will turn for the worse, or that it's you that will become a bad person, or you who's like the villain in the story. So I don't know. I just thought that was very interesting. There's just something special about that last scene of the three friends meeting on the rooftop and looking up at the satellite, and how the audience kind of has to sit through that thought. Like, it just really tied everything together. And I mean, sometimes it's nice to be spoon-fed everything, where like there was a part of me that was really like, okay, now time jump forward back to the future. Does anything change for Frank? But it's like you never really know. And it's like in life, you lose people, you lose relationships, you make mistakes, and sometimes that's just permanent. Like sometimes people are just in your life for a short period of time. I mean, for them, it was 20 years, you know? So you never really know what's going to happen, and you never really know like where people end up. And so I think in that sense, they kind of just wanted to leave you with wondering that. But with that, it just ends a little bit solemn, and not really with any consolidation for the viewer who knows how things end for the trio. So definitely, I would not say that this show has a happy ending at all, but I guess it is a real one, if you think of it that way. And I think I do love how it starts very hopeless, but ends very hopeful, because you do go from seeing this, I don't know if money hungry is the right word, but like as an artist who is essentially ruined or distracted by opportunity and fame and money. And he kind of in reverse, you see that light in his eyes from the beginning, and you see how he got there. You know, you see them, they're college students. You know how it ends, but it's nice to see like how it started and just like see that journey. And because of that, this isn't really the show that you can go like, ooh, that's not going to end well when something happens. It's very much more like a feeling of, oh, so that's why they said that. And so you just kind of have to go into it thinking that's how you're going to watch the show. But that scene at the ending, I mean, I can't stop thinking about it. The three college-aged friends on the rooftop, all excited about how their futures will turn out. It was just painfully beautiful knowing that it doesn't really go as planned. I have to shout out the music. I really do love the score in this show, and especially the moments where we could see the orchestra live above the set, like during the overture. And all of the performances in Merrily We Roll Along are fantastic. I mean, people aren't lying when they rave about Jonathan Groff, Lindsay Mendez, and Daniel Radcliffe. I knew Jonathan Groff was fantastic. I've been dying to see him on Broadway for so long, and he did not disappoint. But Lindsay Mendez and Daniel Radcliffe, they were both phenomenal also. I'd say my favorite numbers in this show were probably Franklin Shepherd Inc. That was probably my 100% favorite one. And it's also a really good drama moment of the show. That's actually the scene where you find out why Frank and Charlie are not friends anymore. And then so that number is actually a big Daniel Radcliffe number, by the way. That one is good. Jonathan Groff is phenomenal, and Growing Up, that number is just beautiful. Like, I was on the edge of my seat, like, this is amazing. Old Friends is probably the easiest song from the show to regularly get stuck in my head. And then you have Now You Know, which is fun because I loved how they transferred the home feeling of the set into a cruise ship. Like, I feel like for most of Act 1, it was very much just like a home in different ways. And that whole scene, like, it just gets bright. It's like he's getting ready to go on a cruise. I just liked how they set that scene. It was really nice. And it's a good Act 1 closer. In Act 2, my favorites were probably It's a Hit, Not a Day Goes By, the reprise, and then the finale number, Our Time, which Our Time is probably my second favorite song from this show. And that hope from the three friends, it just really shines through so beautifully in the song as they see anything is possible for their future. Merrily We Roll Along is unfortunately closing July 7th on Broadway, which is so sad because it is just such a phenomenal production with what feels like, I said, like a once-in-a-lifetime casting that just works so well. Like, I am so glad I did not miss out on this show. It's also nominated for 7 Tony Awards, which is so deserved. And while I'm on the topic, for those that don't know, Merrily We Roll Along will actually be a movie. It is being filmed in real time, though, over the course of several years so that the actors can age along with the movie. So no telling when it's coming out. But get excited because it will star our favorite Irish actor, Paul Mescal. He's going to be Frank. And then we have Ben Platt, who's going to be Charlie, and Beanie Feldstein is going to be Mary Flynn. Like, it's giving cast, you guys. This is a really good cast, so I cannot wait for that. The last thing I want to share about my experience going to this show, actually 2 logistical things. One, I love the Hudson Theater. It's so nice inside and just very intimate. Like, you will have a good view wherever you sit. I've been in the balcony before for a show here, and this time I sat in the dress circle, which was phenomenal viewing. Like, it's always going to be like a good view of the stage, no matter where you are. I'm telling you. The second thing I want to talk about is stage dooring for this show, because yes, there is a stage door. It's not regular. It doesn't happen at every show. I think they don't do matinees. There's like a schedule. You can look on like Reddit or Facebook or whatever, but they don't do it every day. And it's usually just Daniel Radcliffe, but it does happen if you want a stage door. It's on the opposite side of the Hudson. That's one thing that's like weirdly set up about this theater. Cause like we weren't even gonna stage door because I know I always read like they don't always do it. Like sometimes there's no stage door at all. But our parking garage was literally right next to the stage door, like literally next door. So it was like we were walking around there anyways, and we saw that they were doing it. So we went and did it. When it comes to this stage door, it's an absolute madhouse. It's probably one of the worst stage door crowds that I've been in, but it's organized. So when I say like worst, I mean like it is way too many people out there. But it's organized and it's like the security handles it very well. And so what I didn't realize at first of all, with it just being Daniel Radcliffe, obviously Daniel Radcliffe was Harry Potter, right? So he's one of the biggest actors out there. He's been in a bunch of iconic stuff. And, you know, people are crazy about Harry Potter. So he attracts a lot of like the wrong people, like scalpers, people that want to sell his autographs on like eBay for hundreds of dollars. And so the whole like sidewalk, half of it was like taken up with those people. And what I didn't realize, because it was so packed with people that went to the show, random tourists that just knew to walk by and stop there, and then people trying to sell stuff, it was super packed. And what I didn't realize until I like walked around to see if there was more space on the other side of the barricade is that there's actually security there to make sure that the stage door is for people that actually saw the show. So you'll have to walk down a little bit and you can just show like your ticket stub or like, I don't know if the playbill works, but I just showed my ticket to the security guard and they'll let you into the stage door section, and all the other people are just across the street. Or like the sidewalk is weird because they were like, there was a barricade on the opposite side of the sidewalk going into the street too. So there was people on that side, but that was like the scalper's side. And then there were people across the street too. So like imagine a whole rack of people out there. I made it into like the stage door area, me and my aunt, and Daniel Radcliffe, he came out. He was super nice. I feel like usually big celebrities like him, they would not stage door. I mean, I've met some, like I met Jessica Chastain at this same theater the last time I saw like a Broadway show at the Hudson. Jessica Chastain, she stage doored and I met her there. But usually a lot of the time they don't stage door when it's like a big star cast or stunt cast or whatever you want to call it. But then if they do, I feel like when they attract a big crowd, a lot of the time there's like a rule where like you either like sign your playbill or take a picture. So when I met Daniel Radcliffe, like I talked to him, I was like, the show was so amazing. Like he did a really great job, you know, because his number was my favorite number in the show, which was kind of like surprising to me. I didn't expect that song to be so catchy and fun. You know, I really loved it. And so then I asked, like, I was like, okay, like, would you like to take a picture or whatever? And he was like, yeah, don't you want me to sign your playbill first? And I was like, oh, I didn't know they were going to do both, you know? So I got my playbill signed and then I got a picture. And then my aunt also got a picture and then she got her playbill signed. And it was so exciting. Like, it was really fun. It was really cool to be able to do the stage door because I haven't done a stage door at Broadway show for a long time. So it was really fun and I really enjoyed it. And just like seeing Merrily We Roll Along finally, it was like a bucket list item for me. Like it's been on my list of shows to see at the top for so long. So it was just, all in all, it was a very great experience. And like I said, I'd recommend seeing the show. Now, after I saw Merrily We Roll Along on Broadway, I did another interesting little thing. I went to Ireland in portal form. I'm sure y'all have heard or seen stuff about the Ireland portal in New York. It's like an art exhibit of sorts or something where there's this giant screen recording us and it's broadcasting to Ireland. And then there's one in Dublin, Ireland, filming them and broadcasting back to us. You can't see yourself, but you can see them. I'll post pictures on social media of kind of like what it looks like. But you guys, I had wanted to go really bad to this little Ireland portal. And then they closed it because people were acting up on both sides. And then they reopened it. And I was like, okay, like I'm finally going to be able to go. I showed up wearing my best Irish attire that I could find. Green pants and a hosier t-shirt. It was like the type of thing, though, where you show up to this place and you're excited to be there and you think it's so cool. But then after 5 minutes, it's like, okay, let's go. It's a really interesting concept, though, to be connected with strangers in another country in complete real time. I'd like to see it with other countries, though. Like, it's definitely worth checking out because it's just, like, interesting. They also had, like, photo booth style signs to hold up and, like, take pictures and, like, send messages, I guess, back and forth. It was, like, silly stuff like, we love Ireland and, like, I'm here with the Irish. Like, it was very, like, photo booth, if you know what I'm talking about, where you have like the sunglasses and the hats and the hashtag party time type of like sign thingies. But yeah, they had props. I took some of me. They had like Ireland flags and I like took pictures of that. They didn't seem to have props on the other side though, which would have been cool, but I don't know if they did. But just all in all, it was a lot of randomness at the Ireland portal. Nothing's like super crazy or anything. So I had fun there. It was pretty cool. Now the last little fun pop culture thing that I want to talk about today is the Rolling Stones Hackney Diamonds tour, because I had a chance to attend the May 26th show at MetLife Stadium and I had the time of my life. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I was on this New York trip with my aunt and really this started like last year. Basically, like, I like the Rolling Stones and I'm on this new bucket list, I guess, you guys, where I want to see like a lot of the different musical legends before they retire. So like, for example, in November, that's probably about when I started this. I saw Diana Ross in concert and then I saw like the Rolling Stones were going on tour. So I was like, I want to see them. And just like I have like all of these different artists like Billy Joel I want to see. I'd like to see Sting. I'd like to see Bruce Springsteen. Like I just have like a list of artists that I want to see, but I'd say Rolling Stones was probably at the top of that list for me. And so I know my aunt is like a big Rolling Stones fan. Like she's seen them probably, I think, like at least 10 times. I know she recently, the last time she saw them, she went like all the way to London to see them. And so she's a big fan of them and I knew she was probably going to the tour. So I was like, hey, are you going to the tour? Like, I think I would like to go as well. And she was like, well, why don't we just meet in MetLife in New Jersey and go together. And so she actually got me tickets to this tour for Christmas. It was my Christmas present, a really amazing one. And we actually had floor seats, which was so cool. It was so exciting to be on the floor at MetLife Stadium. MetLife is just such an iconic venue, to me at least. Like, whenever I can see a show there, it just feels like an honor. I think it's because of like my early like music fan days. It always seemed like a big deal when an artist went to MetLife Stadium, like when One Direction went there, or like 1989 tour, like wasn't the tour movie filmed there? It just seems like a lot happens at MetLife Stadium that's like super cool. It's like a very special stadium, I guess I should say. And it's so funny while I'm on the topic of like MetLife Stadium, but this Rolling Stones concert, it was May 26th, which was actually 1 year to the date of my Eras Tour show at MetLife Stadium. So it was like weird that I went to a concert at MetLife Stadium on the exact same day, 1 year apart, but such is life. That is a little fun fact that happened. I guess like starting with like just my experience there, I didn't even know what to wear to a Rolling Stones concert because like I like to dress up when I go to concerts or like dress to a specific theme. And I was asking my aunt and she was like, well, people at the Rolling Stones concerts just wear merch. And so I was like, okay, I'll get some merch. So I wore like this like bedazzled top with like the Rolling Stones logo and some cargo pants. I'll like post pictures up. But yeah, our seats were really great. When we got there to like the stadium, they were like sound checking, which was like really unique. I don't know. Not like it's different or anything, but I've never been to a concert before it started and like heard the sound check. So it was kind of cool to hear the sound check from like outside the stadium because we weren't even there that early. We were there at like 4:30ish because I think the gates opened at like 5 o'clock. But yeah, we got in. I like ate little food. I got me some chicken tenders and fries from the little MetLife food booth or whatever. My friend Gabby was also there. Shout out to her. It was really fun. I took pictures and stuff. And then the opening act for this tour was actually Lawrence, who I was very excited to be because I've seen them before and I knew they were great. They actually were the opening act for the Jonas Brothers, their tour last year. So I saw them in concert back in December and I was like already like, they were really great in December. I still kind of listened to their music from that concert because I was like, they were really fun. And they were really great at this show too. I was a little bit worried for them. Not necessarily worried, I guess, but I was like kind of curious how the like audience was going to react because I don't know, I feel like the Rolling Stones has like an older audience of like more rock fans, and Lawrence is like, they're closer to my age and they cater to more of my age of music, and they're like a lot more pop than the rock sound of like the Rolling Stones, but they have like a full band with them and they just bring the energy. And everyone around me in the crowd and my aunt as well, they really loved Lawrence, and I was like happy because like I really like Lawrence and I was like rocking with them. It was fun. I really enjoyed them. And they just announced their new album, I think, because they were teasing it at the concert. They were like, stay tuned for like new music from us. We have a new project. And so I actually think it's coming out soon. I think they've announced it like since the tour. I know it's called Family Business, but I can't remember like what day it comes out or if it's like if there's like a specific announcement out yet. But I'll check because I'll probably talk about it on the podcast when it comes out because I really like their music, obviously. And they played some songs that I think are going to be on the album, and they were good. Can confirm. I'll also post some videos from their performance at the show as well. Now for the Rolling Stones, when they came out at like 9:30ish. They were so much fun. Like I had the time of my life just singing, dancing, jumping up and down. Like I was very excited, especially being on the floor. Like the crowd energy was just like top notch. Everybody was just like singing, dancing. Like it was very much giving. And not to sound very corny, but hearing that real rock up close and personal was so incredible. Like I just mean like this really full band sound, like real rock music. You know what I mean? It's so amazing to me also because this band has been around for so long and they're in their 70s, really 80 years old. I mean, Mick Jagger is 80 and they're still touring. Like the longevity of them is like insane. And then with the energy they have on this tour is like, they just like, you wouldn't think they're 80 years old. There were several times where I even just turned to my aunt to like laugh, specifically while watching Mick Jagger, because there was a catwalk and we were actually sitting like right off of the catwalk. And there was one point in the show where Mickey had come down the catwalk. He had walked down and he was singing. And then at the end of the song, he literally ran back to the main stage. And I mean ran. Like he ran. It was crazy. It doesn't sound crazy, but it was funny. I have a video of it. I'll share it. It was so funny. And he was jumping and just dancing around. It was just very entertaining to watch. I'm only 23 years old. Like, I don't have to worry about being 80 anytime soon. But, you know, when I am 80, I would like to be able to get around like they do. Like, it was good. As for the set list, they performed a lot of classics like Start Me Up and Satisfaction. Those were the opening and closing numbers, actually. They also did a lot of my favorite songs by them. I think my favorite songs to hear live were probably You Can't Always Get What You Want, Get Off of My Cloud. I love Angry off the new album too, which is just, it's a fun song. Our fan voted song was Heartbreaker, which I loved. That song was so fun to hear live. There was also a point in the show where Mick Jagger, he leaves, and Ronnie Wood and Keith Richards, they play a couple of songs like on their own. And I think that was also one of my favorite parts too, because they did Tell Me Straight, which was so good. Like I said, that one was probably one of my favorite numbers from the whole show. And then also they did Little TNA, kind of like solo. My aunt's favorite performance was Wild Horses, which I think that one was the fan voted song for MetLife Night 1, because they did it as like a part of the regular set list for us. Because I remember they were like, we played this one the other night and they loved it so much, so we're going to do it again tonight. And I think that was their special song, but they just like added it in for us, which it was a really nice, pretty song to hear live. You know, it's one of those like slow songs where everybody holds up their flashlights. It was really good. I'd say Whole Wide World is one of my favorites. That's one of the newer Rolling Stones songs that I would recommend, really. Probably one of my favorites off of the new album. And it was just really a straight party. And they ended so strong as well. Like the set list was very strong, especially in the second half. It just felt like hit after hit after hit with Gimme Shelter, Painted Black, Jumping Jack Flash, Sweet Sounds of Heaven off the new album. That one was really good live too. I enjoyed that one so much. And that's also like another like big crowd flashlight song. I was just on a cloud this whole show. It was so much fun. I'm going to post a ton of videos so you all can see, but I definitely recommend seeing them in concert, because that was something I'd see a lot of people say is like, they're so old. Why would you want to see them now? And I'm like, trust me, they still know how to put on a good show. And they did. It was so much fun. I guess that's a little bit of a recap from my Memorial Day weekend in New York City. You know, saw Merrily We Roll Along on Broadway, went to the Ireland Portal, and then saw the Rolling Stones in concert. It was a very fun weekend for me. If you're doing either of those things anytime soon, let me know. Let me know what your experience is. I want to hear from you if you go see the Rolling Stones in concert, or if you see Merrily We Roll Along. I kept calling it my little rolling weekend because, you know, you have Merrily We Roll Along and the Rolling Stones. And I know I am very corny, but that is why I named this episode Merrily We Rolling Stones, to play on the fact that they are all rolling, okay? So we're on a roll. I will talk to you all next week. See you. Time for the outro. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, tell a friend and make sure you let me know by leaving a review and following the podcast. As a reminder, at Fan Fave, it's all about the love for entertainment and the joy of being a fan. Fan Fave is active with even more content on social media, so make sure you don't miss anything. It's at Fan Fave Media everywhere. So connect with me because I want to hear from you, my fellow fans of pop culture. I'll see you next Tuesday when we'll dive into another aspect of pop culture. Thanks for listening and see you soon.